So from Ashanti, we return to Greater Accra region, and this time to Parliament. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo joins us live now on this issue of the chartered aircraft. Joseph, good morning. Is it a matter of no show or more time?
Well, from what we've come to understand, it's actually a request for more time, because Mr. Kenoforiata was actually in the House yesterday. There were other questions that were directed at him. There was a question about how much money government of Ghana has paid independent power producers for excess energy capacity over the last 4 years that the Tamale North MP Hassan Suhini had filed. He responded to that. He put the figure at around $927 million that went to 3 different companies. Power, as well as Senpower and one other company. He also responded to a separate question from the minority leader, Haina Idrisu, about how much money the Bank of Ghana has advanced to government of Ghana over the years. And then there was a third question that he responded to yesterday as well, having to do with the Ghana Revenue Authority and a firm called McKinsey, and how come the contract with them had been reviewed. Another question by Hassan Suhini, and he explained that there was an initial contract for them to work for a short duration, and then it was extended. They've been paid about $8 million for their services, and he was disputing another figure of $17 million that's been put out. So Mr. Kenoforiata was in the House in his regular all-white attire, responded to those questions. But the other interesting bit is when the House started sitting at 2 o'clock, the other paper, which spells out the business of the House for each day, didn't have that specific question of Mr. Blackwell having to do with how much money was spent on the trips to Belgium, France, and South Africa. And subsequently, we got the explanation from Mr. Okudzeto Blackwell that the finance minister had actually indicated to Parliament that he needs more time to be able to gather the said details on the expenditures in question. But he, Mr. Blackwell, was more worried that he didn't give a specific time by when he was hoping he would have the said feedback to then come deliver to Parliament. And for Mr. Blackwell, it virtually amounted to the finance minister trying to escape accountability, which he was very critical of.
So how much more time are we looking at when is Mr. Finance Minister answering that specific question?
For now, we can only wait and see. We may get details on that later today, because if you recall, we first got to know that he will be responding to this particular question today because of the business statement, as it's called, that was delivered last week, Friday, and approved by the House. And usually the business statement spells out the business of the House in the week ahead. So today there'll be a business statement that the majority leadership will bring to the floor for approval in terms of the business the House will take care of going into next week. So we're waiting to see if that question will be captured so that then eventually it comes to provide the response to it, because it looks like the minority is insisting that they are not letting the issue go. They think that it's a key issue of accountability and prudent use of state resources, and they would use all possible avenues to make sure they get to the bottom of the issue.
Should we expect a formal explanation in terms of why that was missing on the order paper yesterday?
All other things being equal, we would expect that likely formal explanation today, because I foresee a situation where today, when the leadership on the majority bench, in most likely the deputy leader, Penny Markins, because the leader himself, Osechimen Sabonsu, is bereaved, so he's back home in the Ashanti region. Most likely, when Mr. Penny Markins presents the business statement for next week, there is usually that window of opportunity for MPs to ask questions, and the questions are very varying, including questions about how come something that was listed as business for the week was not dealt with in the week that just ended. So even without the House on its own going out of its way to offer a formal explanation, I foresee a situation where that will come up today when the business statement for next week is delivered, and the majority leadership, and for that matter, the representative of the leader of government business, will have to explain that formally to the House as to how come we didn't get the response to that particular question and what the plan for the way forward actually looks like.
Okay. Joe, what time does Parliament sit today?
Today they're sitting at 10 a.m. These days, looks like a decision on when the House sits is at the behest of the leadership. The standing orders make the point that sitting is supposed to be between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. But as we would usually say, they are masters of their own rules, so they decide when to change what, including what we saw last night, if you recall, Mamavi, the attempt to waive the provisions that say when an issue comes to the floor, 48 hours need to elapse before you can debate the matter. There was an attempt to waive it yesterday to allow for the House to speedily approve deputy finance ministers, but the majority side lost the voice vote to that effect, and eventually the approval process brakes were put on them. Looks like it all will continue today, even as efforts are made to approve more deputy ministers.
All right, Joe, thank you very much. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is our parliamentary correspondent. So that's from our own correspondents from, some 3 major regions. We ended in Greater Accra, but we started off in the Upper East region, went to the Ashanti region, and then came back to Greater Accra region. Up next, in the spirit of honoring fathers and paternal bonds, we bring you this conversation on Father's Day. Reverend Sam Kranchi will be joining Benjamin Akakpo, but also some very great fathers. You've seen them talk about other stuff, but not this one, fatherhood. That's coming up right here. Please stay with us.